Good morning to those that are joining. We're just going to give a couple of minutes for people to join, so we'll be with you presently. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, well, I'll start my introduction. My name is Brian, and I am the CEO of the Immigrant Council of Ireland, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all here today to day 2 of our 2022 National Integration Conference. So we are carrying out this event this week over 3 days. Yesterday, we had our first day in Dublin, where we had a live event, our first live conference in a couple of years. So we were a bit rusty at the start, but I think we got into a good flow as things went. And we had a very, very rich conversation throughout the day, and I'll recap that a little bit in a second. Day 2 today, as you will be aware, is online, retaining some of the elements and things we learned from the pandemic over the last 2 years. The ability to do online events is something we'd like to retain. It's great for people to be able to sign in from all around the country, and great for people to be able to sign in from outside the country as well. So we are retaining an element of the online experience, which I think will be something we'll keep going forward. And then tomorrow, for day 3, we're in Galway. We're in NUI Galway tomorrow, which is very exciting for us, because we haven't done too many events outside kind of Dublin and Leinster. And especially in the west of Ireland, where there is, a huge amount of diversity, as there is across all of Ireland. So it's very exciting for us to be able to engage a little bit more on the ground in the west. So there are 3 days. If you check out our website, immigrantcouncil.ie, you'll see the running order for today, and you'll see the running order for tomorrow as well. So for anybody that's in the west of Ireland and would like to sign in or would like to join us, I think it's still possible to register. I'm pretty sure it is. But there's a very interesting lineup of speakers and themes covered tomorrow as well. So as I say, we started our event for our 2022 conference yesterday in Dublin, and we were also simultaneously marking the fact that we're 21 years in existence as an organization. So the Immigrant Council of Ireland was founded 21 years ago and opened our doors as a service provider 20 years ago. So it's kind of it's a really interesting and kind of important time for us as an organization to use the opportunity to reflect back, I suppose, over our foundation and the work that we've done over the last 20 years, being both a national level non-governmental organization and an independent law centre as well. So Sister Stanislaus Kennedy, our founder, who dreamt up the idea of the Immigrant Council back in 2000 and 2001 with some colleagues and friends and people from a migrant background, reflected on the last 20 years of our existence and essentially the role that we've played as a service provider, responding to the needs of people from a migrant background and information on their rights and entitlements, and the legal service that we developed then to back that up as well. So, ranging from the very simple things that people will have questions about to the very complex things. And then when it comes to the legal representation, the type of cases that we've taken that might try and change the immigration system, make it a little bit better, make it clearer, make it more human rights proofed, but also as well to provide legal support around cases of difficulty and vulnerability. So we've specialized over the years in issues like providing legal supports to victims of human trafficking, gender-based violence cases, unaccompanied minor children, undocumented people. And the combination approach we've always taken, I suppose, has been to be a service provider, to be a legal representative, also to research, to campaign, to advocate, to work in coalition, to work with the media, to work with political representatives, to work with migrant communities, and to try and engage as much as is possible. We're a small organization and we can only do as much as we can do ourselves. And the things we achieve through collaboration and through coalition a huge amount of the time. And that is the theme of this year's conference as well, is working in coalition towards equality. So a great opportunity for Stan, our founder, to reflect upon that yesterday, but also as well to talk about our work in integration, which of course Teresa and Val and Liliana and the integration team do fantastic work on in the areas of political participation and migrant leadership, working with local councils, local authorities, providing training around diversity and anti-racism, and really, I suppose, the part of our organization that aims to be a platform, to kind of, use whatever resources and skills we have to amplify and to provide a platform for the voices of people from a migrant background, put them front and center and us in the background. And it is kind of that capacity building and leadership development work that really enriches our integration work. It's not us saying things, it's us listening, essentially, which is massively important. And yesterday was a great example of that. I think, it was populated 99% by people from a migrant background and people from Ireland's diverse communities, and their expertise was front and center. And the themes that we covered throughout the day were really interesting, diverse and interesting in and of themselves. We talked about coalition building for equality, what's worked, what hasn't, and reaching out beyond, I suppose, maybe the parameters that we're usually working in this sector of the social justice landscape, building alliances with activists from traveller communities and other areas, and the kind of intersectionality of a lot of the issues that we work on. We talked about political representation, and for those that want to be engaged in politics, and making our local government and our Seanad and our Dáil more reflective of the actual population of Ireland and how diverse Ireland actually is, and some great conversations around that. We talked about some difficult and sensitive issues as well, like gender-based violence issues, and the supports that are available around those things, and how they intersect with the immigration system, and how they intersect with vulnerability and marginalization, and again, another crucial area to work in collaboration and coalition with others like Akidwa. We'll have Salome this morning as the head of a fantastic migrant women's organization in Ireland. We also covered themes of the I suppose current landscape as regards international protection in Ireland, whereby we have the continuing difficulties and the continuing existence of direct provision as a stain on Ireland, as Stan called it yesterday, a stain on Ireland's history, and a continuing one, which exists, unfortunately, to this day, despite the recommendations of the white paper on abolishing direct provision, and the kind of slowness of the implementation around that. But then the added challenge most recently of the situation regarding Ukraine, the almost 30,000 people from Ukraine that have come to Ireland, and their needs as well, and how essentially the competing demands of all those seeking protection in Ireland risk the establishment or the kind of entrenchment of a two-tier approach around seeking international protection in Ireland. And I think what was really powerful yesterday was the reflections of people from the Ukrainian community and groups like MASI and others, where there is no animosity between both parties. There is a desire, I think, for solidarity and a desire for working together, but also as well having that difficult situation, having that difficult conversation of highlighting the situation whereby direct provision continues as a problem, direct provision continues as a policy, and we now have a much more complex international protection system in Ireland, where there are differing standards for differing people. And I think those powerful conversations are difficult to have because they're emergent issues of tension, but at the same time, not tension between those who are coming from very vulnerable and very difficult backgrounds like Ukraine and like other countries, for those who are in the international protection system writ large. And I think, you know, the solidarity that we saw yesterday kind of emerging is really important when it's pointed back at the state in terms of saying, well, this kind of two-tier approach is not good enough, and this two-tier approach needs to be leveled out. We need an equal platform and an equal approach to all those seeking international protection, not just in the crisis situation we may be in at the moment, but in future crises. You know, these things will happen again, unfortunately, and we need to continually adapt our approach. And I suppose some of the conversation yesterday was about what opportunities there are in some of the paradigms that have been broken this year in responding to Ukraine, and how that can be applied to everybody else seeking international protection as well. So I think that's a really powerful example of how we can use spaces like yesterday and today and tomorrow to have difficult conversations, and to know that we're all coming from the same place in terms of wanting to achieve equality for all. And it's actually a lot of the systems and power structures around people that are the problem. It's not people competing for scarce resources at local level or at national level. It is people coming from a situation where they need equal access and equal opportunity to get themselves into a position of living lives with dignity. And it's amending the power structures and amending the resources that are provided, and igniting the will for change that has to be all of our common goal. And I think that was, as I say, what was really powerful about yesterday was difficult conversations, but underpinned by really strong values. So I learned a lot from yesterday, and I continue to learn a lot from our work as an organization every single day. And I'm really proud of the fact that you know, that people have trust in us maybe to try and facilitate some of these conversations, and really, you know, proud of our 20 years and 21 years of existence as an organization that we get to do this. So that was a quick recap of yesterday. There was a lot covered. There'll be a lot covered today as well. There'll be a lot covered tomorrow too. And these are snapshots. They're opportunities for us to come together and talk about these things and move the conversation forward into solutions. And but they are only snapshots. These conferences like this reflect work that goes on throughout the year in our organization and in others as well, and we always come to it with the spirit, I suppose, of coalition and collaboration, and as much as possible working with each other to try and achieve change. So it is with that spirit, I am very happy to welcome you again here this morning to day 2. And I am very happy as well to introduce to you our keynote speaker for this morning. So our keynote speaker for this morning is Dr. Salome Mbugua. Salome is a researcher, gender equality activist, and human rights advocate, and founder and former CEO of Akidwa, the Migrant Women's Network, and has over 20 years experience of working with underrepresented groups, and in particular women, children and youth in both Europe, Africa, and internationally. She holds a doctorate from Trinity College, Dublin, and her research focused on integrating women into peace building in the Democratic Republic of Congo, with a specific case study on Goma. She also holds a master's degree in equality studies from UCD. Everybody will know Salome, I suppose, from her many interactions, both at national and international level. Akidwa have been a strong ally and partner organization for the Immigrant Council for many, many years, since we started pretty much, Salome, right from day one. We've always enjoyed the interaction and the wins that we've achieved together, both of our organizations and with others as well in collaboration. So it's a distinct honor to introduce Salome to you this morning, even though many of you will know her already, and I'm really looking forward to hearing her speak. So over to you, Salome, and thank you again, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks a million, Brian, and good morning, everyone. It's sunny, it's a nice day, and I actually continue to enjoy this 3 days conference by ICI because they were really timely, and it's timely that we discuss the things that we are discussing. I would like to thank you as well for giving us the opportunity, and in particular myself, to share my thoughts and views on the theme of this year integration conference, which is really looking into coalition building to achieve equality. And I just want to say from the outset that indeed the discussions we are having since yesterday and that we'll continue to have tomorrow, today and tomorrow, are really timely, as most of our organizations, especially migrant organizations, are now over 2 decades of being established. And we really need to step up, to be able to achieve meaningful equality for the people that we represent, or in particular within the migrant sector for the migrant themselves. My organization, Akidwa, has collaborated with the ICA on many projects and activities, bringing NGOs together to form coalitions or establish campaigns to achieve social change or equality for migrants, and in particular, from our perspective in Akidwa, migrant women. And I have 2 good examples to give you. The first one was actually the CADIC, or which was called the Coalition Against the Deportation of Migrant Parents. This coalition was actually very key and important for many migrants in this country. So we set up the campaign, it was actually just a meeting that was called by Akidwa. And, we brought different people coming together. Dr. Oli Trentin actually played a huge key role in this whole campaign. And I will be talking about that later, how it's important to have good leadership when you have the campaign or any types of campaign, because at the end of the day, you want to achieve better outcomes that will benefit the people that you're actually campaigning for, or the issues that you're campaigning about. And so this campaign was very, very, very well organized. And at the very end, we managed to get funding, and ICI actually played a very, very huge role. The way the structures were put into place to ensure that, as many parents as possible, and that the campaign itself to stop the deportation of over the 17,000 parents of Irish citizens and their children was achieved. So this campaign was thoroughly planned. It was thoroughly, structured as well at the same time. The funding that was gotten, was managed by ICI, and it helped us actually quite a lot to be able to achieve the great outcome that we achieved out of that. I just want to say that from the outset, that any coalition that you set must have a purpose and what kind of an outcome you want to get out of it. You can't just plan to have campaign or coalition just for the sake of having them there. I've been in campaigns that have not worked, but I've also been in campaigns and coalitions that have actually achieved real meaningful kind of outcome for people and people who are experiencing inequalities in the country. And at the very end, those 17,000 people who were allowed to stay in Ireland, they were given the right to reside in Ireland with their children, are now most of them citizens, if not all of them, because we're talking about almost actually 20 years ago. Next year, it will be 20 years since the citizenship referendum was announced, So it's really very, very important that we think about how these coalitions are formed and how they are led and what the purpose of even putting them together. But we have all the power in our hands, as people who think clearly about equality and justice, we have the powers in our hand to be able to achieve best outcome for the people that we present and people who continue to be denied their rights. Because when we talk about inequality, it's about people's rights being denied to them. Yet we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which actually position all of us into a better position, knowing that all of us should be awarded the same right because we are all born equal. And that's actually what any coalition should take into account. So the CADEC model was a very good one. And ICI actually played a huge role, or even led that, they worked very hard on that. So I think we're in the very best hands of thinking of forming coalition and issues that we may come up with to work on. The second actually kind of coalition that I want to bring along was on the domestic violence coalition on migrant women experiencing male violence. This was actually, established in 2006, and we were campaigning to get independent status of women seeking international protection who are experiencing male violence. It was actually very obvious that many migrant women didn't want to come out even to speak about it because they didn't want to jeopardize their immigration status. And I want to thank a key player in this the coalition itself, who is actually the former CEO of ICI, Denise Charlton. Denise actually played a huge role into making this happen. It took us 6 years to achieve that independent status. And at the end, the Minister of Justice at the time agreed to establish the guidelines. So the INIS guidelines were introduced in 2012, that women who are seeking international protection can actually, independently seek asylum or, go and seek support based on their own right as women and as people who have their own right to seek that international protection. And you can see, what was achieved. The only thing that remained was that this remained at the discretion of the minister. So, and this is something that we may need to continue fighting on, because it's not very automatic that every woman who is experiencing violence, either they have stamp 3 or other stamp that don't allow them even to access labor market or to leave their partners, can leave. So we really need still to fight about this. But this was a very meaningful kind of coalition that had a very specific kind of an issue to fight for and achieve. So we also have to be very clear of what are we looking for, because we will be able to gauge ourselves. Are we achieving what we want to achieve at the very end of any coalition? So these are very two key good examples that I want actually to put forward to you, that us as migrant people who are living in this country and supported by people who are working with migrants in their organization, has come together before to be able to form this coalition to achieve meaningful change, to achieve equality, to achieve rights of migrants before. And it can be done again and again. It's just the way we actually prepare ourselves. We've come up with so many other plans and arrangements. We had actually set up a Migrant for Ireland. This was about political participation of migrants. We had organizations like NCP, Akidwa, Africa Center, ICI. We had a lot of groups supporting us in this. Actually, the last one, I think it was around 2014, where we also even claimed for a quota system to be put into place so that we can ensure that migrants are represented into different areas of political participation, whether it's in the DOIL, whether it's in the Senate, in all areas of decision making. And I think such kind of coalition are also very much needed, because we are still very far from achieving equality of participation in decision making and in politics for migrants, but it can be done, and we have seen things succeeding before. I've also been involved in many other coalitions that has failed, and I won't dwell on those which have failed, but I'll actually maybe highlight some of the key things that we should put in mind, when you're setting up this coalition and when we are thinking about them. So it's very important that we plan ourselves in a very smart way, and we think on what we want to achieve at the very end. My presentation to you this morning, therefore, is informed with 20 years of experience of activism, mainly advocating for equality and justice for underrepresented groups, and especially migrant women. So you can imagine for 20 years, we have been achieving small things, some of us as organizations who are doing things in their own organizations, on behalf of migrants. Imagine what can happen if we can all come together, all the groups that experience disadvantage, to fight for equality and justice for those who continue to be pushed at the margin of the society. It will really play a huge role, and we can do quite a lot with the achievements that we achieve from that. Well, a lot has been achieved, and we can say that we have achieved quite a lot, with our organizations which have been operating in the last 20 years. We are yet far from achieving an island of equals, an island where, migrant, travelers, Roma community, people from LGBT background, people with a disability, own parent, because you also have to check the grounds of discrimination which are there. There are many. We cannot actually leave some other people that they are not important. Everybody is important when it comes to the framework of human rights and equality and justice as well. And so we should bear in mind on whom are we leaving behind, whom we are not thinking about. Lately, I've been calling groups and organizations in Ireland that, for example, migrants don't to be afterthought. It's not when you plan for a meeting or for an event that then you think we have not invited migrants. You should actually plan for every activity and whatever you do with the minds of the people who are reflected in the society. And that is very, very important. When you bring people afterthought because you have been challenged, then that becomes a huge, huge question. So it's very, very important that you know, even when we are planning for campaigns ourselves, you know, as migrant and as people who are supported by groups and organizations working for migrant, that we also think of other people who are experiencing same issues that we're experiencing, like racism and discrimination, that we bring them along. So we continue, this group that I have mentioned, continue to be denied access to rights. And quite often, you know, they are determined by their immigration status. So because you have different immigration status, you'll be treated this way. And we have seen people sleeping rough in the street. We have seen people living actually in very deprivation situations because their rights are reduced. Then there's also the hierarchy and power in the society. And indeed, discrimination and racism still continue to be very, very, very huge issues in Ireland. We also have economic inequalities, which is a reality. The inability to access employment for some groups. You know, they are discriminated even when they are looking for employment. All these things we know about them. Other people, you know, they are not having decent jobs. They don't actually get jobs that matches their qualifications, even when they're highly qualified. Some people are completely excluded from the society because they cannot speak the language, the English language in this manner. Some of them are really situated in very remote places. And so they are still excluded from planning and decision-making structure. And there in Ireland, we still lack the reflection of this diversity that put everybody who is living in the islands of the island of Ireland into the picture of what you see and what you actually get when you enter into these offices. We now have, you know, so many organizations, including public services, coming up with what we call equality, diversity, and inclusion strategies. We also have them, you know, saying about all this, especially after the George Floyd, awake of George Floyd killing and the awake of the Black Lives Matters. We need to put these things into actions. We don't just want to have strategies that talk about ED&I. And when we look at the reflection of these organizations, you know, they still don't have people from different backgrounds. We don't have people in public jobs who are from other backgrounds that are living in Ireland today, or even the second generations of migrants that are living in Ireland today. And so what I want to say is that these discussions that we are having now are very timely to be able to identify the gaps and the inequality that still continue to exist within the society, and how we can actually all come together to be able to organize ourselves. And the represented groups and communities then ourselves, we must leverage our own power and advocate for equality of opportunities. Equality of outcome, you know, because you can give people training as much as possible. You can provide them with work placement, but they will still remain in their own situation if you don't help them to get those jobs that they want to get. So the outcome, equality of outcome is very important. You know, opportunity, you can give opportunity to participate in training, but if you don't give them the job after that, then they are still remaining into the situation they were before. Yet it's very important that they are given that. So the equality of outcome, we must fight for it. And then equality of access. People are still denied to access some of the most basic, you know, rights that they need to be there. So the formation of coalition can help address these issues. And I think it's the most important and one of the only way to achieve meaningful change and inequality for these people who are actually trying to come together, to work together, to achieve the change they need so much. I also want to say that the coalition can also help to capture the talent and make use of skills that different people have, because they may not be in jobs that are paid, but they may have skills and talent that can help to actually achieve what you want to achieve in any of this coalition. You know, I want to give some of the key points before I finish on the learnings that I have, you know, from the previous coalition that have been there. But at the outset, we must ask ourselves, what do we want to be the outcome of anything that we set out there to be? You know, if we are coming up with the coalition, what do we need to be the outcome, or what do we want to be the outcome? I said at the beginning, and I gave an example with Kadek, how leadership is so important. Leadership is everything that matters. We've actually seen it with marriage equality. We have seen it with so many other things, including the repeal the age amendment. Leadership is so important, and the person that leads that, they have to be people who are committed and people who have understanding and know-how. They have to be actually driven with the need to change and do good. So leadership is very, very important. The structures of such a coalition is also important. roles have to be defined. The whole issue of power structures has to be discussed, because quite often people feel like, they're being left behind. Others don't know even what is happening in such kind of coalition. So all these things have to be looked into, and the structures are very, very important. Resources, and in particular human resources, are very important. If you organize for a campaign and you don't have resources, both human resources and financial resources, then it becomes problematic for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. With the CADEC, we had a time bound. We wanted to ensure that, for example, the parent, before it reaches 1st of January 2005, which was the deadline for people to apply, that all the parents have the information and they have applied and they have been supported. So time bound is very important, but also the sustainability, what drives people to want to be in this coalition and to be part of it, and the sustainability of, like, even if some people move and we don't have finances, how do we maintain it until we achieve what we want? So this is actually very, very important. How do we want to achieve success, and how could be the success be like? I just want to say again that it's important to put those affected by the issues that we bring as part of the campaign at the heart of the coalition. We cannot be talking about independent status of migrant women who are experiencing violence, and then we are not bringing them forward to be able to give about their lived experiences. It's very, very difficult for us to go and talk about people seeking international protection, the challenges they are facing in accommodation centers, and we be their voices. Their voices should be amplified, and they should actually be seen physically, not only to be seen, but also to be heard. It's very, very important that we put those who are affected by the issues at the front or at the heart of the coalition, which is very important if it's going to succeed. However, quite often, these people who are affected by issues face many challenges, which include financial, isolation, language barrier, self-esteem, and lack of morale. Some people don't see the end, to their problems. And so quite often people don't want to engage with coalition. But if you make them attractive, if you come up with ways of supporting them, it can be possible that people can be able to participate. And so what should we do as a woman, actually migrant woman, and still now the CEO of Akidwa? What should we do to encourage people to engage in these coalitions? And I mean the people who are affected by the issues that the campaign is going to address. I'm not talking about anybody who wants to participate in the campaign. People who are affected by the issues that you're going to talk about. So capacity building, for example, is very important. We have to be able to build the capacity of the people that you're bringing forward to speak. I saw it with the CADEC. And sometimes people fear to speak because of the consequences. So you have to help them to understand that even if there's backlash or there's anything, there's attack online, that you are there for them, that you stand for them and you support them. So capacity building in terms of preparing them, even the presentation that they're going to do, or how they present themselves, and being with them there, giving them information to be a backup as well. Also, support to overcome barrier is very important. We are talking of very marginalized people who don't have jobs, who depend on maybe social welfare, who have very little amount of money to cater for their family and to engage in a coalition. So we really have to support their childcare, their transport, and their being there to where the meetings are taking place. Also psychological support, some people, are traumatized by the experiences that they've had before. And so if we have a coalition as part of a campaign that is campaigning for whether it's racism, it's access to labor market or anything that have affected them, it can be very traumatizing. And we have to be able to support them, psychologically, if they need that support. And then individual personal support, some people may need mentoring, some people may need a backup, a one-to-one, if at all possible. And then finally, incentive, if this financial support, the incentive is very good to help them, to motivate them and to keep the morale there. It's important to always frame our work and whatever we do, whether it's the coalition or whatever we have, within the framework of human rights. No one can defeat human rights because they are universal. And I said at the beginning, when we talk about inequality and injustice, we go back to human rights, because that's how we are told, that we are all born free and equal. And then we have all the rights and basic human rights that are outlined for everybody. And so if we are denied access to the labor market, if we are denied access to political participation or decision-making, that is a right being taken away from us. And we should be able to educate everybody among the people in the coalition that they have rights, and those rights have to be upheld, because some people want to be able to reduce this right. As people who has the know-how and first-hand experience, as people who have come together in this conference and who are discussing these issues, have ability to achieve equality and reduce inequality for the rest privileged, or those who are underrepresented, or those who are experiencing inequality. And I believe the coalition is the way to go, but we have to be very clear of what kind of coalitions we are building, whom are we bringing, whom are we leaving behind, and the way to go around it. So thank you so much. And I'm very grateful that I'm able to talk to you this morning. And I hope to continue engaging with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salome. That was fantastic as always, and so much in it in terms of the learnings, the landscape I think we've all navigated down through the years of making progress, one step forward, two steps back, the things that we've all learned in doing that, and how we can, I suppose, one of the key things I think is the open lines of communication around these things as well, you know, that we can sit down and hammer these things out and learn from each other as we go, and also find a common ground. You know, we might not necessarily all agree on everything within coalition work and within collaboration, but we might find that there's a substantial amount we do agree on, and they're the things that we can push forward together. So thank you for your reflections. Thank you for your work down through the years and the work of Akidwa and the partnership with the Immigrant Council of Ireland as well. And we look forward to another 20 years of it going forward. Hopefully we'll sort a lot more things out in the next 20 years as well. So thank you for your time this morning, Salome, and thank you for attending yesterday as well. I'm going to stop talking and hand over to our first fantastic panel for this morning. Just to give a quick lay of the land in terms of the running order for today, there's a panel now between 10:30 or 10:35 and 11:35, and then there will be a second panel this afternoon at 2 p.m. and you can check that out on our website, immigrantcouncil.ie, in terms of the timings and things like that, and also to those of you that may join us in Galway tomorrow, we look forward to seeing you there as well. So thank you all for your time this morning, and I will bid you farewell from myself, Brian, in the Immigrant Council, and hand you over to Oana for the next great panel. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks so much, Dr. Mbugua. This really inspiring opening, and for bringing so much experience and expertise, and also showing us a roadmap to integrating migrant voices at the very start of planning processes, which is so important. It's a framework for thinking beyond representation and really examining how to shift power structures just beyond EDI departments. So thank you so much for really this inspiring start. So my name is Oana Marian, and I am a writer and artist and researcher and educator. But at the very foundation of what I do and how I move in the world is that I am a migrant woman originally from Romania. I grew up in the US, and I now share time between Ireland and France. I'm really so incredibly pleased and honored to be in conversation with these impressive women. I have been learning so much about them and researching, and just really, it's an honor to be with Handa, with Rosemary Kunene, and Hanan Amer. They'll share a little bit more about themselves when we go through the questions, but and as probably many of you in this space already know some of these voices and some of these faces because they are very active. Handa is a migrant woman from Mongolia who brings her life experience to serving as community liaison with Southside Travellers Action Group, as well as advocating for the Mongolian community in Ireland. Rosemary Kunene is the founder and CEO of Dignity Partnership, a social enterprise that works to empower refugees and international protection applicants to improve or develop core skills for business and entrepreneurship. But this is just one of the many hats she wears. She's also an education assistant at the Irish Refugee Council, and sits on a number of boards and committees in County Laois, and as I've heard, is always on the move. Hanan Amer founded and along with Noor Nasib runs the organization Amal, which is an organization, a feminist organization that affirms the power of Muslim women as agents of change in Ireland, and is very active in the South Circular Road Muslim community. So we'll hear from all of them. I wanted to start with the way that we think about integration. So when we think about it, it's often in reference to the individual who is being integrated. But integration is also about finding or revealing the wholeness or kind of infinitely incomplete entireness that is only really visible once more and more of the pieces are coming together. So because migrant women's particular strengths and needs are so often not adequately considered within political and institutional structures, migrant women's activism so often reveals that wholeness by first pointing out who and what is missing from the frame. So it's not an easy position from which to act. It's not a popular position to be in, always showing the public who and what is missing. It can lead to defensiveness and frustration, sometimes real resistance, denial, dismissiveness, challenges that I know all the women in this room, in this space have faced. So this is an opportunity for us to celebrate the brave work of speaking up, starting trouble, being unpopular sometimes, and also to really learn from each other about how to do the work. And our conversation is going to be really informal, of course, really important to hear from everyone. You're welcome also, panelists, to ask your own questions to the group and to me. And if there's time at the end, we'll also take questions from attendees. And so I want to start with a question that was suggested by Keynote. And for this question, I'd really like each of you to take 2 to 5 minutes to reflect on your own experiences and the political spaces that you occupy. About why do you think that so many migrant women become activists? Why are so many activists also inversely migrant women and movement workers and community builders? What is it about, from your experience in your sector, what is it about the particular experiences of gender and migration that lead directly into the need to embody, so with your own person and with your own life, to embody change through your activism? Okay, so I will mute myself and I'll start with Rosemary, if that's okay, and then you pass the baton when you finished, and then we'll see how the conversation develops. But yeah, just 2 to 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness, I thought you were gonna use the alphabet. I'll be the last one. Oh, good morning, everyone. First of all, I should say thank you so much to Teresa and the ICI team for inviting me to share this platform. I'm really delighted to be here and share my experience as well as also learn. And as Oana mentioned, my name is Rosemary Kunene and I'm from County Laois. I have had my own experience of living in direct provision. It took me 4.5 years before I got my refugee status. And during that time, I was seeing a lot of gaps. I was seeing a lot of need and lack for people that I was living with and other migrants who are living like maybe within the community. And it's that hunger, is that need that actually made me to go into activism. I know there were other people who were doing work, who were trying to advocate for change, advocate for equality, but the thing that I felt I needed, and for me that was about identity and for my skills to be recognized, and for me to be seen also as someone who has like maybe value. Because as you are living in direct provision, I don't mean this in a bad way. Often you're seen as a very vulnerable person. But then I am vulnerable. Yes, I agree. How are you helping me to actually get my life back. That was actually where I was kind of like stuck, because being constantly reminded that you are vulnerable, being constantly reminded the situation that I was in didn't actually help me. It actually made me feel worse. So for me, activism was like, you know what, I want to come out of this shell. I want, I want my skills to be recognized. I want to be a human being. So yeah, that was my own experience. So actually, I forgot to mention from the beginning that I am going to be talking about my experience. So it might be different from someone else's experience, or my views might be different from someone else's views. So I apologize in advance on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosemary. And Handa?
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Mongolia. So because my flight has been changed again, so I'm still in Mongolia. So my name is Handa, I'm Mongolian nomad, and I've been living in Ireland last 5 years. So my experience is quite different as a migrant person in Ireland. So I felt like I've been very much accepted. Felt like I'm so much included. So it's been like 99% of experience is quite positive. So I'm quite fascinated about the Irish integration policy, because I love policy. I do think that if policy is good and delivered by a good people, and society will be better. So that's why I went to the policy and I read every single policies, and I just fascinated about that. So first a few years in Ireland was difficult. I expected difficulties because I am from Mongolia. It's non-EU country. So my qualification, my experience is not recognized, and I need to rebuild myself from the scratch in Ireland as a second language, speaking English as second language. It was difficult, of course it was difficult. But my personal experience being in Ireland is, I landed in Ireland, after 3 months later, I lost my mom, and after that I lost my dad. It hit me so hard, but the Irish culture kind of saved me. So then I thought, you know what? I don't want to stop being an activist, because I was activist in Mongolia. So I need to serve back to the community that I love, which is Mongolian community. So that's how I started activism with Mongolian community. This activism healed my wound. So this journey healed my broken heart. So I rebuilt myself with so many people's help. So reading integration policy is great. It's fascinating. I'm telling you, it's great. You will love it, love that. But implementing that policy is a big challenge in Ireland. So for 2 years, I was afraid of travelers. I was so afraid of them. I told everyone that I'm nothing like travelers. I'm Mongolian nomad. We are a different nomad people. We are safe people, safer and nicer people to everybody. But and after 2 years, I saw the discrimination. It hit me so hard. I thought I was a decent person, and turns out I was a jerk like some people. So then I started digging it, what's really going on with my nomadic people in Ireland. I felt quite sick. So I know it's we are mainly focusing on migrant women and migrant people's issues here. But I'm urged to and asking help from many other migrants, many other migrant activists to look at the travelers' position in Ireland. We will understand them because we know the struggle. We know the struggle, and back home, we know the struggle. It's that people are not believing you that you are a decent person. Every single migrant went through that really difficult, rocky road that you want to tell everyone that you can work, I can work, I'm a decent person, I'm an intelligent person, but no one wants to believe it. That's really hard because we have been labeled because refugee, because of migrant, because of traveler. So every single person here in this conference, please look at your traveler's condition and combine with your activism, because we are the person have a similar experiences. So as a migrant person, I'm trying to find the job was really, really difficult. I didn't hit any box, but actually I'm from marginalized group. I'm a woman, I'm a migrant, I'm a traveler, but I still didn't hit any box. I was either overqualified or underqualified. But I was so frustrated looking at it, that great policy. And also I'm so upset to look at that people who are delivering that policy has no idea, no sympathy for the people who are serving for them. So it's including migrant organizations, it's including NGOs that working for us, has actually no idea what's really goes on the ground. So that made me think that, look, you know what? Ireland is not the land of saints. Still, there is so many problems. Then I need to be, my voice needs to be at least go echo somewhere, you know? I'm not expecting that my voice is going to be heard and this and that. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm not going to be too negative. So that's why I do the activism in Ireland. So, and as activism, I was activist in Mongolia. And the difference between Mongolia and Ireland is Irish political system is quite responsive to the needs, which is great hope for all marginalized group. That's why when we are talking about migrants' problem or other marginalized people's problem, we have to combine every single groups, we have to include them. If we can stand for each other, I know that there is people that are going to listen. So thank you. I talk too much, so I should stop it. Thank you.
That's great, Anna. Thank you so much. And I'm just thinking exactly what a example of coalition building is when you are concerned about your own community's well-being, but then you begin to connect with the needs of a different community the way that you have. And lastly, but certainly not least, I would love to hear from Hanan about Amal and about the particularities of gender and migrant status and how that plays a part in our activism. Thank you. Hanan, I think you are still muted, sorry.
Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy today to be in this conference. And I was wishing to have it like no person, but at least we start, you know. When you asking me to come today, I was thinking about like what I have to say. Everybody, they don't know or they not have too much information about Muslim women. And I say like, maybe I can give you some clue. I will talk about myself. I came here in 31 years ago, before everybody born, you know, that's good to know. Okay, when I come here, I'm just only very young woman. I start my life here. I was studying as a social worker. And when I came here, I didn't have the time to can work as a social worker. Okay, I got busy with my kids. I have 3 kids. I got very, very busy. And suddenly my life is got upside down. I found myself a single mom. She has 3 kids and alone in the country. She, as a Muslim woman, it's shame for me to can say like, you know, my husband, he left me, or I got divorced or anything. The people didn't go to understand that, or they are blaming me. Suddenly, I found myself, I've been in this deep situation. I try to stand on my foot. Thank God, I found myself, I'm strong enough to can stand on my foot. After that, like, you know, in this period of time, I go run away from all my community to not get any blame. After I stand on my foot, I say, okay, why not? I will go to my community. I can answer any question. I went there and I found it's not only me. I have plenty of people, but they not have the, like, you know, they not have the position to can choose what she want, because she's not have language. She don't know the system. Nobody can help in her. The people judging her too much to say that's, like, you know, that's not Islamic way, but Islamic way, that's not the way, you know. I found myself like the life it choosing me to can help in this lady. You know, I didn't choose. I believe in God. He choosing me to have all this problem to can make me more strong, to can stand and help other lady. That's why I say, okay, I will try to help. I went to the mosque and I spoke with a lady, and I tried to speak with the, like, you know, the head of the mosque or the officers in the mosque, but everybody like, no, she's a woman, she have to go away. We don't want her, we don't want her problem. You know, we have to be away from marriage life. I say, okay, I will try to help. I starting again to think about what I'm studying. I waiting until, like, you know, the woman, she come to me, she trusts me, because I told you I'm long time in this community. The people, they come to me, ask. Of course, I'm not have all the information in this time. That's why I starting to get courses. I go to know some people, got more information and all this. And I did decide to have group. It's called it Amal Women Association. What's mean Amal? Amal, this mean hope by English. Amal is Arabic language. And when I say Amal, this mean hope for women. Hope to can starting her life back, taking her life back. When I say taking her life, that means she be strong to can choose what she have to do. And this facility will not have it. We are community, like any community, like Irish community, what's called Pakistani community, any community, they have a lots of problem. Sorry, excuse me. Marriage problem, kids problem, controlling problem. But actually I found we have more than anybody else. Like what I say, the language is the man, he controlling the woman to take her from her country, leave her inside the house, not let her know anything, not let her go to get any courses, English courses. Even if she like to go buy something from the street, you know, he drop her and he take her out. I know some people, they don't know how to go to the city center alone, alone for maybe 20 years inside Ireland. Okay, all this is controlling from the man to can keep her, or otherwise, like, when she's starting to know something, he will show her the another face. She have to choose. She keep quiet or send her back to home without any visa, because we have the system here. The woman, she have to get status because her husband. Okay, and if he divorcing her or separation or something like this, he refused to go and renew her status. I have lots of problem with the lady here. One, like, he taken the money for himself and he didn't give her anything. Another one, he refused to renew her status. Another one, he refused to let her know English to can stand in her foot or to can dealing with the life outside of her house. All this I found it, and I tried to help the lady to can, like, cope with her life, or because if that's happened to Irish lady here, she have her friend, she can talk, she have her family, she can leave the house and go to her family to have like relaxing for one day, 2 day, 1 week. She's know how to go to the court and also to can do partner order or asking for divorce. But Muslim woman, she don't know anything about that. I know the service here is very good. Doesn't matter about the charter and are busy and whatever, like, but they are good service for the woman. But which woman? The woman, they are no. But Muslim woman, she does not have a clue about anything. I started my group in 2013. Of course, it's not easy. I got abused from plenty people because they thinking like, I'm playing in the woman head. But I swear to God, I didn't do nothing. The woman, they already come to me. She's like, she fed up and she like to get the step. And that's my work. You see, I didn't plan it to go back again to social worker, but God, he choosing me to help in these ladies. I think I talk about myself too much, but that's what I have to say because I can't say about other women's situation. And maybe
Thank
it's
you.
okay.
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hanan, for speaking so beautifully and personally. And I think often it's as important as it is to talk about policy and about political movements and about all the things that we need to do. Sometimes a story from the personal is the thing that really moves our heart into the work that we need to do. And I really, I'm enjoying and seeing that we need in this space, we need to do both to have these kind of our personal stories, and then also to be able to think strategically and to think about structures. And so I think one of the things I'm really reflecting on from your story, Hanan, is how patriarchy underlines so many of the challenges that women face in Ireland, and particularly Muslim women face in Ireland. And so then if for feminist organizations, we say, the personal is political, but then also the other way around, the political has such an impact on our personal lives. And so maybe that's a kind of natural segue into a question that I am very personally interested in, and I'm hoping to learn from all of you, which is, and I know naturally in these stories, moments of grief have come up. So in Khanda's story, losing your parents, and then the grief, Rosemary, of being in a way institutionalized into a position of vulnerability and of saying, no, this isn't the entirety of who I am. I am not just a vulnerable person. I have strengths. I have things that I want to share. So the grief of the things and people that migrant women leave behind, the grief of not always being received, not being seen as capable, not being, it isn't read on our faces and on our bodies that we have experience and professional lives and all of the experience that we bring. So I want to maybe move into the question that is about kind of the softer side of activism, and this need for what do we need in order to integrate like for our own integration internally to process the griefs that we experience, also the often the injustices. And I was reflecting on what you were saying, Hanan, that initially you left your community because you didn't want to face, you felt that there was shame and you didn't, but then it was in community actually that you found the purpose of Amal. So I'm wondering if each of you, whether you want to share, and obviously just, as only as you feel comfortable to share personal stories, but if there anything that you could share about maybe how you've turned painful experiences into power and where your resilience comes from, whether it's spirituality or community or somewhere else. And how do you make space for the kind of softer side? We're all fighters, right? Like everybody in this room is a fighter. Where does the space and the time for processing and for resilience come from? So, and anybody who wants to start, and also feel free to respond to each other as well. Yeah.
Right. Oh, sorry. I was talking to somebody? No? Anyone?
Go on, Hamda, I'll come after you.
Okay, I will come after you actually.
Okay, all right. So Oana, that's really actually a deep question. And when you were talking, actually, I was reflecting to say, sometimes when people say, Rose, you're a very strong woman, I respond to say, I don't think I am strong, because if you see inside me, if you could just see how my heart is bleeding, you would actually wish you were not me. So some of the things that pushes us to go out there is fighting the battles that other people do not know. So like hearing from Hanan's story, when I actually moved this side, I was actually, I should say, my relationship with my family, specifically my mom and my dad, it actually went down the drain. And I was just in this country just by myself. And the only thing that I held to was my children who were not even with me. So I actually found motivation and energy in seeing the change that I was making in other people's lives. Helping people come out of direct provision to integrate into the community, maybe sitting on the table with people like Dr. Salome and, having this hope to say, you know what, there is room for us in this place. I'm coming from a country whereby women are actually classified as second-class citizens, and we would not be able to open our mouth. And coming to this country, I was like, wow, I can open my mouth and there can be, something can be done. And that's one thing I appreciate about Ireland, that you're able to speak out, although sometimes the action might take time to be acted on, but at least you can voice out your worries or your concerns, and you can also start taking action yourself. Like with my work with Dignity Partnership, I'd seen myself coming from a business background. I seen that there isn't much support for people coming from maybe the asylum system or someone with coming as a refugee program refugee. There's not that much of support. Yes, we can say the local enterprise offices, they are one-stop places where you can get all the information about enterprise, how to set up your business. But then for someone coming from a refugee background, someone coming from asylum seeking background, they need extra support. So in that case, what we don't need equality. We don't need the same resources. We need more support. We need equity rather than equality on that matter. Because like I said, I was living in direct provision 4.5 years. I didn't have that access to the labor market. I didn't have access to education. I had to find my own ways of how can I go into education? How can I improve my skills? Because for me, I was like, if I just don't do anything with the things that are happening in my life, for me, that was a death sentence. I used to go to Dublin and going into one of the board meetings. And one lady asked me, one of the members, she said, why do you come for these meetings religiously? All the way from Portlaoise, coming to Dublin for just the board meeting. And for me, I said to her, this is just my escape route. If I sit in the room, what would I be thinking? The only thing I'm thinking is, how can I exit this world? So if I go out there and at least do something, take action, it brings that a bit of hope to say, you know what, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And that is my work. I tell people to say, you are in this situation. There is light at the end of the tunnel. People from where I come from, they'll be like, you walk out of a marriage with 3 children, you're carrying 3 children by yourself. Even at the moment, I'll still be looked at, oh, that aggressive woman. Some people will tell me, oh, you know, it's hard to be in a relationship with someone like you. You're such an aggressive woman, you're this and that. And I said, no, I found my voice and I'm not going back where I'm going to be treated as like a carpet. If you find me aggressive, that's fine by me. This is who I am. And at least my voice is being heard out there. So I think I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosemary.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Hanan.
Okay. When she talked, I feel something between me and her. Okay. When she say everybody look to us as a strong woman, no, we're not strong. We have to be strong, but really we're not strong. We're still women. We need somebody to rub our back, to can stand, helping us and all this. We're not aggressive. Okay, like if I'm talking about myself, when I got this position, like, you know, be a single mom and 3 kids, what you accepting from me? I have to be strong. I have to stand in my foot to can raise these 3 kids alone. You know, I didn't, when I talked to you before, I say I didn't choose my position. The life or God is choosing me to can be strong for my kids and also to help another lady. They not have this power. They not have the skills. Like I told you, I study as a social worker. I know how to talk with the people. Okay. And I was thinking like, no, this one is gone from my life because I didn't work long time, but I found myself back again. If I say why or being there, I've been there because of my kids. I like my kids, or I feel that's my responsibility in this life. I have to be strong for them. And when I be strong for them, I try to help other lady. They not have the facility or they not have the power I have. Everyone is different. I think God is choosing me to help in this lady. That's what I believe in the end. You know, It's not me, I'm not the superwoman or something like, no. God, he choosing me. Maybe he do all this in my life, okay, to can using me to help other lady, that's what I believe. And that's the purpose in my life. Okay, that's it.
Hanan. Handa, would you like to respond? The question is about, just the grief and the moving through painful experiences to turn them into power.
So I think every activist has some power to use their vulnerability to help other people. So that's why society rolls. So the mine is, I really do believe that if I keep silent, others will be. So somebody has to talk about something. So of course, I'm a community worker. So the Mongolian community, there is lots of supporters and there are lots of backlashes as well, even though I'm working for them. That's how community works. I expect that. So I don't actually get hurt too much. I actually read every single hate messages that's sent to me. So then I analyze with them why this person is looking at me this way. So if it's becoming too much, I actually take a break. Usually we should take a break. We should, like, I closed down my whole blog for 2.5 years now to recharge myself, because if my inner strength is gone, so there is nothing to be shared, nothing to be, love is not in there, so I cannot spread anything. So yes, I am so weak person. I tell everyone around me, look, I'm not a strong person. I don't want to be a strong person because my mom was a strong person. I know how a strong woman's life goes. I know how a strong person's life ends. She did not stop. She didn't want to get help from others. She just wants to do everything by herself. And she just went within a second. So I urge everyone to stop. So don't be strong. And yes, other thing is, I think another very important thing is all activists need to support each other, because we know the pain. We know the backlash, how it affects our mental health and emotional health. So we should talk about our emotional health and emotional intelligence and mental health as well. We are just like others. So because we want to help somebody, that shouldn't be punishment. So it will be, because it's community work. So how we can heal many activists is just, I think activists should work together as a team to support each other. So that's how we can roll longer term. So yes, and also I'm a nomadic person. Nomadic people has an enormous strength. I can see that this enormous strength from traveler women. We just keep on fighting. It's really tiring. It's really tiring trying to tell that, yes, I'm nomadic, you know what? And I can fight. I have intelligence that we can use. That talking to wall, the wall like in front of us saying like they don't want to hear. But still we fight for that. So yes, I'm a nomadic person, so I will be fighting and I will be asking help from other activists, and I will be crying, and I will be announcing that I get depressed, and I will be announcing that how I beat my depression. So, and because of your activism, because of other people's love for community, so also I'm a nomadic person again. So I can't stop. So that's me. And that's my experience. And that's how I found my strength. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Handa. And actually, that is such a powerful message of stopping and also seeing rest as a form, as a part of activism, as an integral part of the work that we need to do. Because if we don't rest and if we don't regroup and recharge and connect with the things that ground us, there is nothing from which to give to our communities, and we ourselves become more defensive. And so I'm really struck by the confession of all three women that they are not strong, which of course it's, you know, this is I think one of those moments. And there was a comment in the chat, somebody saying, thank you for sharing your strength and your vulnerability. And I tend to think of those things in the same place. So that vulnerability itself can be a strength. Knowing your vulnerability can be a strength. And so we just have a few minutes, and I want to, I greedily want to ask another question. I also want to give space if you have any questions for each other, because you also may very well all know each other and be in conversation often. But I think my inspiration for many things recently comes from watching and tending a garden. And one of the things that I'm learning a lot about recently, and I'm not a good gardener in any way, but I'm learning a lot about compost and about how messy it is, and it stinks and it gets my hands dirty, and I don't want to deal with it. But that mess is what is going to nourish, being in that mess is what's going to nourish my future vegetables. And so I think one of the things I'd like to sort of end with is just how does coalition and collaboration happen within the mess of all the difficult conversations that we need to have without relationships breaking down. So the graciousness that each of you offered in this space, recognizing that your experience is your experience and that it doesn't apply to everyone, but that there are always going to be places where we can meet. So I think it makes me think a great deal about how marginalization doesn't make us immune to excluding others. So whatever my marginalized group may be can also cause harm. There can be exclusion within efforts of inclusion at the time. So that's the kind of mess of the compost that we have to turn and add the necessary things to make it, to transform it into nutritious soil. That's like everything that's on my brain. So if there's any reflection that you have on that, of kind of sitting with the mess of the difficult conversations in Ireland around power and privilege and race and gender and all of these that continue to explode. Yeah, and just how to stay with that trouble. And that's kind of the question. If there's any reflection on that, I'd love to hear.
I can start. Yeah, so in my own experience, it's about actually understanding, understanding and working together. So I'll give an example like Dr. Salome and also Teresa from the ICI. Whilst I was in direct provision, they would actually come forward and find out to say, okay, how can we support what you're doing? So at least they have the resources, they have the experience, and that is what I needed. And they came forward. It might not be financial support, but it might be also maybe connect me, like signposting me to say, maybe you need to go to such a place. And also, there's one other difference that I actually learned. Where I come from, when you want to address, when you want to say something, you just say it as it is. You don't spice it up. You don't go around the bush. You just say, okay, this is what you've done. I am not happy about it. And maybe this is what I want. Whereas somehow here it's a bit different. You might have to kind of like, be nice in delivering your message. So that's something actually that I actually learned with my interaction with the Immigrant Council, to say, you don't just go and, push it there. You have to find ways of sending forward your message, and also don't just be screaming and using emotions. Try to make the person understand what message are you trying to deliver and what do you want from that. So I'm saying this because if I had not interacted with organizations like the Immigrant Council, I would not know how to bring my message forward. In the end, I'll be there screaming and bringing out all my emotions. And the next person, even if they wanted to help me, they won't be able to help me because of the approach that I am having. So for migrant people, for migrant organizations, having to connect, having to collaborate and work with other organizations who have been in the services or who have been providing the services for quite a long time, is actually helpful for new groups, for new communities like myself, to actually be able to know how to actually advocate, how to do our work. So I find actually collaboration and coalition a very important thing, a very important piece of my work.
Thank you so much, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I love that. I love the in a way, having the courage just to say things as they are and not to dress it up, and not it puts people immediately in a real conversation, and it may initially feel like conflict, but it can be a place from which a genuine conversation can happen. And I'm just so struck as well in this particular moment how powerful conversation is. Just this conversation itself is such an agent of transformation, and such a radical space where we can be political and intimate, and where we can share our experiences, and really, I would say for me personally, walk away a different person than when I walked in. So we just have a couple more minutes. Are there any questions that you have for each other, or is there anything that someone would like to address from previous questions? And we may have some questions from the audience. I'm not sure, but yeah.
So I seem to be like too much talking.
No,
I have one burning question. I don't know whether it's a statement or it's a question. And I'm actually building this from what Dr. Salome said about, the roadmap is about taking action. I feel there's been a lot of research that has been done. There's a lot of integration, integration strategies that actually a lot of money and time has been spent on, and no action has actually been done. So I don't know, my question is, how can we move away from all the research that we're doing and go into action? Like, is there, I know in community development, they say when you're supporting people, likely the people that you're supporting, they might not know solutions to their problems. So you tell them, how to kind of like, you bring solutions to them. But then how can we move away from all the researches that we're doing? Because I think I've done too many of them while I was living in direct supervision, or research on this, we want to check this, integration that. So when are we going to start action? Or how can we start the action? That is where I'm stuck.
And really, I feel like the end of the conversation is the beginning of the conversation, and really where we could start, we could have a much longer conversation. And yeah, I think I would want to pose that to the wider community as well. And if there's a conversation that we can have throughout the rest of this conference, I know I'll be attending just online for the rest of the day, but if there's a way to capture that question and keep it in mind, because really, why do we gather? We gather in order to change things and to transform the things that aren't working. So it's only because our time is ending that we're not having that conversation now, but I really would urge the members of the conference to continue to bring that one up, and we can bring it up ourselves. But I want to thank you so much, Handa, Hanan, and Rosemary. Thank you so much for sharing this time. It really has been such a privilege for me to get to know you, to get to know you a little bit, and to hear your stories. So just a very deep and humble thank you from me.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for having us, and thank you to all the people on the team, on the Zoom.
Yeah, and I will turn everything over to a member of our team to kind of guide us through the next. I know there's an event this afternoon, but yeah, thank you to all who joined online. We've had, I've seen somewhere between 40 and 45 participants throughout the morning, so thank you.
Thank you all.
Sorry, in the absence of maybe anyone else jumping in there, I can bring it to a close. And again, just to echo the thanks, I listened intently, and there's nothing at all I want to add to the powerful words you put in there. So thank you all very much. The next session will start again at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and you can use the same link to sign in for this afternoon session. Thank you all again. Incredibly humbling and incredibly powerful.
Bye all, thank you.